The Chris Evans Breakfast Show with Sky.
Leading up to the big argument backstage in Paris, which saw the end of Oasis, can you tell us what happened that day?
So there was a lot of stories sort of coming out about me, and I'm thinking, yeah, how was all this getting out here? And it was a source said, so there was all of a sudden there was a lot of people from these national papers backstage sipping champagne and that while writing dodgy stories about us and that, and I'm thinking, this ain't quite right. Anyway, we're on the train to Paris on the Eurostar, and he's filling them in again, giving it all this, oh yeah, this is what we got up to last night and all that. So we were having a couple of drinks and stuff. We get off the train and we go to the gig, and I confront him with it. I said, look, you better stop bringing all these people backstage who are writing naughty stories about us. And he's going, oh, blah, blah, blah. And then it all kind of kicked off from there. But it was coming, you know, it wasn't just a flippant thing. This thing had been happening, it had been brewing for quite a bit.
So was it actually in your dressing rooms backstage at the venue?
Yeah, just before we went to go on, he'd come in and I've said something to him, and he said something to me, and then he smashed my guitar up for the record. I didn't smash his up. One that I got bought for my 40th off my ex-wife and that, and my kid, and it had like a nice message on the back of it. He smashed that up, and that was the end of it. I went on stage, got his, and then smashed his. It's all very childish.
So you did go on stage, so they did see you.
I went on stage, waved at the crowd, and then just quickly had a tussle with the roadie.
Right.
And got his guitar.
And so what happened then?
And then I come back, we had a bit of a scrap, and then I told him a couple of things, and he said a few things to me, and then he clicked his fingers, got his big security guard to drive off, and then that was the end of that. And he says, do you want a record deal? I went, yeah, well, go on then. And he goes, how many songs have you got? I went, only 2. And he goes, I think we're going to need more than that. I says, well, I can't just magic him out of the air. So he said, well, are you up for doing a bit of co-writing with other people? I says, well, yeah, man, let's do it.
Okay,
so we did that, and then here we are.
And what's really nice about in the documentary is there's a lot of you in the studio making the first solo album, and you seem like, if you don't mind me saying, a different Liam. You seem like you found your real self, and you're in the middle of it, you're turning up on time, you're excited about every track, you're fully involved. You are running the show, which you'd never done before.
No, but to be fair though, Chris, man, I used to love being in the studio, you know what I mean? I was always there on time. I was the first one in and the last one out. So no, you know, I love being in the studio. But you know, our kid used to take over and, you know, and all that nonsense. But I loved the studio.
So, but it was a rebirth for you, wasn't it? Like
yeah,
before.
No, well, yeah, well, you get another chance at it, get another crack at it. You've got to show up.
Who's tending the farm while you're off gallivanting doing all this stuff?
Clive, my husband.
Okay.
He's looking after the farm and the children. He's there as the adult presence, should I say?
Because you might fall into the TV chef trap. So TV chefs, they've got a restaurant. The restaurant's doing really well. They're spotted in the restaurant. Then they get on telly, and they're on telly so much, and they're writing books so much, and going on tour so much, they can no longer run the restaurant. Do you feel like that you're on the precipice of that happening?
No. Look at my hands, they're like shovels. Honestly, no, definitely
You've got
not.
the strongest hands I've ever seen.
Oh, that was so polite. Strongest hands.
They are. You shook my hand, and I was like, will I ever see my hand again? It's sort of crumpled in your palm.
Well, I feel like the whole crux of what I do absolutely depends upon the fact that you're genuine, because I'm very aware of what you've just said. And as long as people keep coming and knocking on the farmhouse door, and Clive keeps saying, she's down in lower field fixing, mending drainage ditch, I'm fine, because that's genuine. You know, if I'm on a yacht in Marbella with a lapdog, that's no good, is it?
We were literally the worst people to do this in the whole world. I think that we did this thing called the Lebanon Mountain Trail, which is probably the world's least used tourist attraction. Like, the Lebanese authorities felt that there weren't many people being tourists in Lebanon because of the war and all that sort. I mean, even though the war's ended. So they set up this thing called the Lebanon Mountain Trail, which is 27 days. You walk from the Israeli to the Syrian border across the spine of Lebanon. The bit we missed was the mountain trail. Now, I take my dogs walking in the Cotswolds. The 2 guys I went with occasionally go for a game of golf. That's about it, really. And this was proper mountain trekking. So when we turned up, we just thought it was a bit of a wander with food and drink, and it was way, way, way worse.
Who on earth sent you to Beijing, and what did you get up to there, apart from having lunch with this muppet over
Well, again, it was when I was writing for the Independent, and I did a column for the Independent for 15 years, and one of the things, again, growing up in Beirut, what I wanted to be when I grew up, there weren't many things that were cool in Beirut growing up, and it was either a diplomat, which I was at one stage, or a foreign correspondent. Now, I couldn't be a foreign correspondent because I couldn't be Robert Fisk or whatever, but I was playing golf with the editor of the Indie, and I said, you know what, I've always wanted to go to an Olympics, because one of the things about the Olympics is whenever you hear about people going to the Olympics, they're either in sport or they've done it. And I'm like, what's the Olympics like, just for someone who has no idea what it's like? What is the Olympic Village? I mean, what happens? So they sent me to Beijing, and it was amazing. I'd literally just wake up in the morning, go downstairs and there'd be a list of these weird events. So archery, walking, fencing, and you think, right, I'll have a bit of that, and then I'll go to the Greco-Roman wrestling where every country is hairy, and it was so weird. And some of the weirdest sports were the best, like fencing was dramatic.
I know.
Oh, incredible. Archery was pretty cool. I mean, it was just weird stuff.
Well, my dad is on the property, his house is, which is great. So if I get scared, he can run up with a shotgun and probably shoot me. But it's good to have, someone close when you're that isolated and you're writing crime novels.
Yeah.
Do you scare yourself sometimes? Can you do that?
I don't. I think fear comes from the unknown, but I'm scared of things that normal people are scared of. Right. Like you're about to fall asleep and you hear something and you think it's a serial killer.
Yes.
Yeah, that's about it.
I always think that.
Yeah.
So is there a bed in your cabin? Is it because cabins can be like itty and ditty and small?
It's not rustic.
Right.
Like I have TV. I won't live like an animal.
Right.
There's air conditioning. Is
it mostly wood though? It
is mostly wood.
Does it have a deck? Does it have a balcony?
It has a massive deck because it overlooks a creek, and I see the fish in there, and there's a pasture with donkeys and cows. It's very idyllic.
I got offered what seemed like a twinkly role in the wonderful world of Harry Potter. And I appeared at the gates of Hogwarts, my wand tucked neatly under my arm, keen to make a good impression. Swiftly to be told on the first page of the screenplay that even though I'd got the role as a Quidditch captain, there was to be no Quidditch this year at Hogwarts. I then realised that my 10 or so lines of dialogue quickly were to become 5, 4, 3, 2 and none. I ended up with one line, which I tried to say to Maggie Smith, though she was a little bit too unpleasant and wouldn't give me the time of day. And then basically I wasn't invited to the premiere, and I eventually saw the movie and I was like, my one line has been shifted quite far back in the film. And then I got a little bit further through the film and I was like, it's been really shifted quite far back.
Clever. This is
really clever. And then I was like, they must have left it to the last scene in the film.
Yes.
And then the credits rolled and they'd spelt my name wrong in the credits.
Oh no. And how long did this take you in your life?
It was 8 months.
And do you think you led the life of excess to the point of almost of your own mortality? Do you think that was all that was all meant to be to give you such an unsustainable way of life that you had to then go and become what you were meant to be?
I think so. I think that there's a lot to be said for a breakdown becoming a breakthrough. And I really am grateful for everything I went through because it taught me so much about addiction, about suffering, about stress. So now when I help people, I know where they've been or what they're going through. I'm not sort of preaching from a pulpit or pretending to be enlightened or anything like that. I'm just like everyone else, and I know what it's like to suffer.
And the breakdown is interesting, isn't it? Because if you break down, what breaks down around you is what you're not. And if you're able to survive the breakdown, what you're left with, which could be perceived as nothing, is in fact what you are.
Exactly.
And you get the chance to start again. And that's the point, isn't it?
And I think actually severe suffering can be something that increases your compassion for others. So depending on how you use it, and of course meditation has given me tools so that I can look at my own suffering and see other people's suffering and how to resolve that.
You went for this, it's okay, it's only a year to be a monk, don't worry, you don't have to sign up for life, but then you did sign up for life. And then where did you go from Scotland? You went to where ultimately?
Well, the monastery's in Scotland, and I stayed there for many years training, and then started to teach a little bit, travelling around the UK and Europe, giving classes in meditation. But actually, 12 years into being a monk, I decided to go into another retreat to kind of deepen my training. And this was a very extreme retreat. It was 4 years long. And that was on a Scottish island, on Arran.
Right.
My monastery's got a small retreat centre there. So 20 of us monks basically locked ourselves away for 4 years and had no contact with the outside world.
Now, that's pretty extreme, isn't it? So what do you find out about yourself within those 4 years, having already found a lot out about yourself anyway?
Well, you start to realise that you're not as sorted as you thought you were. Because I was a monk already for 12 years, and I thought, oh, well, I must be quite sorted out. But I wasn't. I went into this 4-year retreat and kind of fell apart and had to face a lot of darkness in myself, very severe depression, panic attacks, all of that. And I thought, wow, this is who I am. Now, you take everything away, you're backed into a corner with your own mind, and you realise, wow, I've got a lot to deal with here. And that's when the meditation started to kick in.
The Chris Evans Breakfast Show with Sky.